Yo, what is going on with you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a minute, about 2 weeks since I last uploaded over here on the channel, but I'm back with another reaction video for you guys today. I've been locking in on a few things in the back end, but today we're going to get right back on track. So let's see what's going on in this video. So today we're going to be reacting to why Kid Laroi disappeared from hip-hop. I have no idea. It's been, quite some time, maybe a little over 4 years since I've heard anything from Kid Laroi, but let's get into this video and let's see what's going on.
Now, a few years ago, you might remember how there was a young rapper and singer who was catching a lot of buzz within the rap world. His name was the Kid Laroi, and a lot of his early success came from his connection to the late Juice WRLD. But here's the thing, after going on to have one of the biggest songs in the world with Justin Bieber, something strange happened. Hip-hop stopped talking about him. He went from being Juice WRLD's protege in the rap scene to quietly shifting into the pop world, where most hip-hop fans don't even check for him anymore. And that's what
nothing
makes
wrong with that,
so
though.
Interesting,
I'm sure there's a lot more money made in the pop world.
On paper, Laroi is still massively
like
successful.
you could be a lot more versatile.
His visibility in the culture he got to start in has faded. So, what really happened here? Let's talk about it together. Now, a lot of people recognize the face, the name, or both. The Kid Laroi, real name Charlton Howard, is a 22-year-old artist from Sydney, Australia. Music was always part of his world growing up. His mom was a talent manager with deep ties in the Australian music scene, and his dad briefly pursued a recording career before moving into music engineering and production, working with acts like Bardet and Delta Goodrem. Laroi himself got into hip-hop at an early age, listening to everything from Tupac, Lil Wayne, and Kanye West. By the time he was just 10 years old, he had already decided he wanted to make music for a living. Now, his mom was his biggest supporter, and she not only played his music around the house, but
moms.
even stayed up late with him trying to
That's what's up.
Info
honestly,
for rappers.
My mom bought me my first camera so I could start making YouTube videos. That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
W mom.
That kind of support gave him the confidence to chase a dream most kids his age would have thought was impossible. And before anybody,
like,
really
I most definitely
name,
have to support my kids' dreams to the fullest when I have them. I'm excited for that.
Laroi was out there hustling. He would literally wait outside hotels for big artists who came through Sydney, trying to get a chance to play them his music. At one point, he even sent a friend to play one of his songs for Sway Lee, and it worked. They connected, built a relationship, and eventually ended up collaborating years later. At the same time, he was recording raps over beats on his mom's phone and posting them to SoundCloud. That grind led him to place third in the 2018 Unearthed High Competition, a contest for high school artists run by Triple J, one of Australia's biggest radio stations, and that moment gave him his first bit of national spotlight. And by 15, he had already caught the attention of Lil Bibby, who signed him to Grade A Productions in partnership with Columbia Records. Lil Bibby stated that it only took about 5 seconds for him to know Laroi was special, and even compared him to the first time he heard Juice WRLD's music.
That's huge.
I'm in the office with one of my homies, and they played me 5 seconds of this song of Kid Laroi.
When you hear it hit, you hear it hit. Oh man!
Once I heard that, I'm like, I need this kid. So once I heard him do that, and they say he's 15, I'm like I
haven't heard anything from him either in a long time. I honestly don't even listen to music. I couldn't tell y'all when the last time I listened to music. I don't even have an Apple Music subscription. Like, I canceled it, I want to say a little over 3 months ago. I don't have Apple Music. I don't have, what is it, Spotify? I don't have that either. I don't listen to music at all.
That same feeling of recognizing raw talent that could be molded into something much bigger. And Grade A wasn't just any label. It was the same camp that discovered Juice WRLD. And Juice didn't just co-sign Laroi.
He replaced it with audiobooks. That's my
becoming
thing.
a mentor for him during those crucial early years. And this is when things really started to take off, because that mentorship gave Laroi credibility and put him directly in front of Juice WRLD's rapidly growing audience in the rap world. However, when Juice WRLD tragically passed away in December 2019, Laroi not only lost a mentor, but also a big part of his identity in hip-hop. He dedicated songs to Juice and eventually appeared on the track Reminds Me of You. And around this time is when things got a little controversial.
Yeah, but like, when stuff like that happens, you really have to take it in your own hands to really make sure that you know what you have actually works. Like, you have to go full throttle, despite what happened, which was really unfortunate with, Juice WRLD being his mentor.
Anniversary of Juice's passing, and a lot of fans felt like the moment was being used to push Laroi forward instead of simply honoring Juice's legacy. And to them, it just didn't really feel organic. And while Laroi was only 17 years old at the time, the backlash he received was very strong. I said it back then and I'll say it again. I never blamed a 17-year-old kid for the timing a label chose. Labels are always going to do what labels do, unless it's blatantly clear that someone's writing a legacy for clout. I think Laroi, at the time, considering his age, obviously deserved some grace. And I just want to emphasize, especially at that age, he was 17 years old, it's only fair. We all know how little control most young artists have over those kinds of decisions. If you hate the timing, 9 times out of 10, that's a corporate call. Now, this was the beginning of a bigger narrative forming around him. Some people saw him as Juice WRLD's natural prodigy, while others felt like he was being forced onto the culture. Even with all the backlash,
when I heard his music, I thought Kid Laroi was, kind of in a lane of his own. Of course, he had, similarities to other artists, but I thought it was really doing his thing.
Moving very fast. His monthly listeners on Spotify skyrocketed to the point where he ended up surpassing Lil Uzi Vert. And then the conversation really exploded when people noticed that he had more monthly listeners than Kendrick Lamar himself, who at the time hadn't dropped a solo project in 4 years. And to me, that whole debate was kind of unnecessary because monthly listeners isn't a great way to measure loyalty. All it really shows is how many unique people streamed at least one of your songs in the last 28 days.
Still huge numbers, though.
On your music in a playlist and never play it again, they still count. If your biggest fan listens to you 100 times that month, they still only count once. So it's really more about reach than anything else. And Laroi at that moment had massive reach.
Especially with him just coming up and artists like Kendrick Lamar being in the game for so long, with the Kid Laroi accumulating that many numbers is that's what's up.
Songs were spiking everywhere, driving those numbers higher than any artist who hadn't released in years. Kendrick. So it's useful for showing how wide that net is, but it doesn't necessarily reflect a core fan base. For that, you obviously look at hard tickets. Who's showing up to your shows? And because Laroi blew up in quarantine, we didn't really have that data yet. Also, there's the novelty effect. New face, new voice, new story.
Yeah.
The first 12 to 18 months of a hot rookie can outstream veterans who are between eras. Doesn't mean that the rookie is bigger in the long run. It just means that their name is hotter and more in circulation at that time.
It's a trend.
Logic didn't stop comparisons. People were still shocked to see a teenager from Australia pulling in bigger numbers, streaming numbers, than icons like Kendrick. And that shock quickly turned into accusations. Was Laroi an industry plant? Was he being pushed by the machine? Or was he simply that hot? The division was obviously clear because on one side you had fans calling him the next big thing. On the other, people dismissed his rise as manufactured. And honestly, at that particular time, I can see why the industry plant accusations kept coming up. Laroi was rising so fast that to a lot of people, it almost didn't really look real. But in reality, that kind of momentum is exactly what happens when an artist hits the right moment with the right songs. On top of that, he was getting a heavy push from the industry, which only amplified the perception, right? But that push is also what introduced him to a wider audience, because many of the fans who ride for him today first discovered his name and face during that exact period where he was really exploding. Meanwhile, as the discourse was happening online, Laroi kept leveling up. He collaborated with Miley Cyrus, gained cosigns from Justin Bieber, who eventually later became his friend and mentor, and started making his way deeper into
him and
the pop
JB look
world.
like
At
twins.
this point, he signed with Scooter Braun, one of the biggest managers in the music industry, and the longtime manager of Justin Bieber himself. Scooter's roster isn't small fish. I mean, we're talking about Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato. From a business lens, this move made a lot of sense. Grade A helped break him, but Scooter's world is built to scale a pop act globally. So the tension was, could that machine move as fast as Laroi wanted with him in the driver's seat? Now, just 3 months later, Laroi left Scooter's camp. Reports said it was because Brown promised to be directly involved, but he wasn't. And Laroi also had issues with decisions being made without his input. He then moved on to work with talent manager Adam Leber, only to eventually return to Brown for a period of time. And all this behind-the-scenes chaos showed how messy the business side of things were for Laroi at the time, even while his popularity was skyrocketing. And then came the song Stay. Now, this song wasn't just a hit, it was a global smash. Stay reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, #1 on the Global 200, and topped the charts in over 20 countries, including places like Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden. It became Laroi's first #1 record, Bieber's 8, and one of the biggest records of the decade so far. Like, this song was huge. Some people might be like, what are you talking about, biggest songs of the decade? If you think you haven't heard the song, you've probably heard the song. That's how big it was. Because there was a period of time where this song was
I've definitely heard snippets of the song.
Malls, on the radio, in public spaces. I felt like I couldn't really escape it, even if I wanted to. It was a good song, though. I liked it. And this is exactly what I personally predicted when he signed with Scooter. Because obviously you could see that Laroi was, of course, headed in that pop direction. He had records like Without You and then So Done. Those were 2 songs that opened up that lane for him. And then Stay just slammed the door behind him and, you know, locked it and threw away the keys, right? So he was most definitely in that pop lane from that point. So he wasn't just dabbling in pop, he was fully there. He was committed to that. And he had left behind a rap lane that first embraced him and officially crossed over into pop stardom. But here's the flip side. While Laroi was winning globally, his presence in the hip-hop culture in the rap world started to fade. The same fans who once championed him as Juice WRLD's little brother no longer looked at him as part of the rap conversation. And around this time is when Laroi started receiving a lot of hate, mainly from the rap community. Aside from the industry plant accusations, he was also on the receiving end of the culture vulture label that we've seen a lot of white artists get once they come up through hip-hop and then transition out of it. Nowadays, we call it the Post Malone formula, right?
Post Malone
is a great example of this. He caught the same criticism early on with White Iverson. That's how most people found Post Malone. And then before he cemented himself as a global act, he had the image of a rapper. He kind of had the sauce of a rapper and the style.
Nah, he switched up to that country flow. Post Malone knew what he was doing. Come on now, you gonna get a little bit of hip hop at the beginning, and then eventually, you know, you gonna feel a little die down, and then you gonna switch it up completely. Go pop, go country. You know, do whatever you're doing now. But you know, nah, that's the love of the game. Come on now, you can't stay in one lane for too long. Eventually you're going to dry out and have nothing if you continue to stay in it. So it's a good thing that he made a decision that he did make. So
his music was influenced by hip hop and rap in general, right? And then he pivoted from that. With that being said, though, Laroi became the type of artist who could dominate mainstream charts, but no longer had that same core credibility in rap. So from that perspective, Laroi faded away, and at a certain
it
point,
works for some people and other people it don't.
To him. Now, although the
that's
rap
when you got to find something else to make it work.
A while ago, ever since his departure from rap, Laroi has actually made a massive mark in the pop world. It was really after Stay that things went to a whole new level. That record alone did billions of streams and cemented him as a young global superstar. But even outside of Stay, he stacked multiple other hits that kept his momentum alive. And for all the monthly listeners, fanatics out there, I mean, he's actually sitting at over 40 million today, which is insane, right? And that puts him in the 90 most streamed artists in the world right now on Spotify. Crazy. And then when you bring concerts into the conversation, that's where it gets even more real, because streams can be debated, playlists can inflate numbers, but you can't fake people showing up. And Laroi actually sold out nearly 30,000 fans in his hometown of Sydney last year, which I was very surprised to hear this. I'll be honest with you. I knew that he was successful, but I didn't know he could do 30,000. That's a lot, man. That's literally a stadium crowd. Like, that's insane to me, because I did not know he had that kind of pull. I think it's interesting to see how someone who was
hometown had to show up for him, though.
Is now standing on his own. He went from being introduced as Juice WRLD's little brother to becoming one of the biggest young pop stars in the world, right? And while hip-hop may have stopped checking for him, the numbers don't really lie. It looks like the kid Laroi ended up finding his lane, and he's thriving in it. And although I'm not the biggest fan of his music, I like a few of his songs. You gotta salute the work. You gotta salute the success. Because there was a lot of rappers in that lane who blew up around that time, and then they didn't really do anything with it. This guy actually took that momentum and found a lot of success, and I think that's very admirable. Especially at such a young age. I think a lot of artists, when they blow up at a certain age, let's say if they're 17, 16, a lot of times they don't really find their way in the end. And that's a harsh reality for a lot of artists who blow up young, especially if they're getting a lot of criticism early on. It kind of throws them off balance, right? And it takes a lot for an artist to end up thriving in their own lane and finding their own identity, especially when you're young. I'm very curious what you guys have to say, though. When it comes to the Kid Laroi and everything that's happened with his career, have you still been paying attention to him since he went full pop? Or did he fall off your radar once he crossed over into pop? Curious to hear what you guys have to say.
No need for me to check into him. He's going to continue to do his thing regardless. But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Let me know down in the comment section down below, as well as other videos you'd like for me to react to. But I'll catch you on the next video. Oh, make sure you guys join the Discord. Discord link will be found in the top of the description. So I'll see you over there. Tune in, never tune out. Remember, every day you guys have a choice. Choose growth as ATM, and I'm signing out. Deuces.